Hey guys, it's Miss Taylor. We're going over the supply and demand packet that we kind of glanced at for a second in class. It was over just regular supply and demand of one single product, so it's the microeconomic supply and demand graph. The front of the packet looks just like this. Okay, this was just a little reference guide. If you turn to the inside where the actual questions are, you will see this activity that's on the screen here. Oh, this way. It's over here. It's right here. It's the reasons for shifts in the demand curve, and you see it right here on the screen. So if you read the directions, and I know everyone does, you start at curve 3 on question A, and if it shifts to the right, you shift over to 4, and if it shifts to the left, it's a decreasing shift, it goes to 2. So I've got my handy dandy little notebook right here, and just know that you start off at curve 3 on question A, and then if you shift to the right, this is more demand that direction, and this is left, so it's less demand that direction. And then you start on the next question wherever you left off on the previous one. We could look at letter A. I know that in one of the class periods, we just went straight to question B. But if you look at A and all of these questions, you're going to ask yourself, what happens to the demand for beef? What happens to the demand for beef? Okay. Question. On letter A, it says the price of beef rises. The price of beef rises. And we have that poster in our classroom of the shifters of demand. And it's ECO. ITSECO. Income, taste, substitutes, expectations, complements, and number of, that's O, buyers. So these are our shifters of demand. And if it's one of those shifters, it's going to shift demand. It's going to increase or decrease it and shift the entire curve either left or right. But only if it's one of those things. If it's not on that list, that is not going to shift demand. So on letter A, it says the price of beef rises. Well, price of the product you're talking about does not shift the curve. It shifts its substitutes or its complements. And complements of beef and substitutes of beef are going to shift the demand curve for beef, but not the price of beef itself. It would change the quantity demand. So if I have my little graph right here, we have the price, quantity, and here, that's Q. And here's our demand curve for beef. It's up here, but I don't want all the lines to show you. If the price rises from, let's say, this lower point, and it rises and has this upper point, that changes the quantity demanded of beef and how much people buy, but it's not going to change our overall liking or disliking of beef. It's not going to shift the curve. And so it's only going to be a movement. It's just a change of quantity demand to this point to quantity demand at this point, but the line stays the same. That entire demand curve stays the same, but it's quantity demand that changes. So, but the question asks, what happens to demand? There's no change here. There's no change. So you're still going to be at curve 3. You haven't really changed there. So because it's not a change of income, taste, complements, it's just a change of price of that product, and that's not going to shift the curve. Okay. On B, millions of immigrants swell the U.S. population. Well, that's going to be more people, and more people demand more of everything, including beef. So demand is going to increase. And we were at curve 3 in the previous question, so we're going to increase, shift to the right to curve 4. Pork prices drop. Okay, pork prices drop is similar to question A of beef price rises. It's a change of price of something, but the question is, it's pork. That's not beef. Pork is a substitute of beef. If you need meat for a meal, you could have pork or beef. And if pork prices drop, how is that going to affect your demand of beef? Well, if you're sitting in the grocery store and pork prices fall, you'll probably buy the pork, which means you're not going to need the beef. And so we're going to have a decrease in demand for beef, because the question is asking for demand for beef. It's a decrease because you're going to buy the now on sale pork instead of the beef. And you're going to go back to curve 3. And on D, the Surgeon General warns that eating beef can be hazardous to your health. Probably not going to demand as much beef now, so it's going to decrease to curve 2 this time. We're going left because it's a decrease. All right, so we're now on the back on E, F, G, and H, and the previous question left off on curve number 2. And remember, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here are our demand curves. You can just flip to the front, but it's easier for me to just redraw it. Okay, so going to the right is an increase, going to the left is a decrease. And we have price on the y-axis, 0 at the origin, and Q per quantity on the x-axis. Previous question left off at curve number 2. So number 3, or letter E, take-home pay for Americans drops 3rd month in a row. And so that's take-home pay, so that's our income. So the American income is dropping for the 3rd month in a row. People are getting laid off and not making as much money. And with less money, there's less stuff. There's less money to buy beef. And so your demand for beef will decrease once again. And now we are at curve 1 because we were at 2 before. Decrease to curve number 1. Nationwide fad, the jalapeno burger. Well, if it's a fad that's trendy, people are going to demand more jalapeno burgers, and you need beef to make those burgers. So the demand for beef will increase to curve 2. Question G, the higher price of charcoal threatens Memorial Day cookouts. Okay, so charcoal is used to make beef. It's a complement. Charcoal goes along with beef. So if charcoal is more expensive, probably not going to buy it, which probably means you don't even need the meat because you have no way to cook the beef now if you're not going to buy the charcoal. So you'll demand less beef, a decrease for the demand of beef, and you'll move back to curve 1. And letter H, the beef prices are expected to rise next month, the skyrocket next month, which means you'll probably stock up now. You can always throw that beef in the freezer and then defrost it later when it's too expensive to purchase. And so if you expect it to skyrocket next month, your demand will increase now, and you'll go to curve 2. Okay, so the next page is looking at supply. This worksheet's a little different just because you're starting at curve B every single time. And if you're increasing supply, you're going to curve C because that's right. And if you are decreasing supply, it's going to be A. And then the next question starts off once again at B. So it's that's how it's a little bit different. Okay, so there's 8 scenarios or 8 headlines, and you're going to write yes or no for the supply shift, increase or decrease, left or right, and then to the new curve. So auto worker union agrees to wage cuts. So workers are being paid less. Well, if you have to pay your workers less, is that going to shift supply? Well, a wage is an input. Input price is definitely a shift of supply. And if you pay your workers less, you can hire more workers, which means you can get more work done. And so this will actually increase supply, shifting supply to the right to curve C. Number 2, new robot technology increases efficiency. Yes, this is going to shift the supply. It is going to increase supply if you have new robots that are new technology in production to curve right again to curve C because we're starting at B every time. Nationwide auto strike begins at midnight. It's a strike is people not working. So yes, this is going to shift supply, but it's going to decrease supply to curve decrease, to shift left to curve A. If no one's working, there's going to be less supply of things being made. The new import quotas reduce foreign car imports. If we're reducing the amount of foreign imports, that means like take all the Hondas and Toyotas and Mitsubishis off the road. Will there be less supply of cars? Yes. If we have less supply, we are going to be shifting to the left. We're going to be decreasing left to curve A.